Hi all. So I hope everyone is doing great and we are back with another tutorial video, and in this video we will be discussing about AWS. So we will be having a look at an introduction to AWS, and once we are done with the introduction to AWS part, we will be seeing how we can create an AWS free tier account. Okay, so without any further ado, let's just jump right in to this tutorial. So the points of discussion for this video will be, we will see at the following points. We will see what is AWS. We will see why AWS, why you should go for AWS, as there are multiple public clouds available in the industry today. We will see about the service offerings that AWS has to provide. Then we will have a short comparison between AWS versus other public clouds. And as the last part, which will be a hands-on demo, we will be looking at how we can create an AWS free tier account. Okay, so let's first understand what is AWS. The full form of AWS, it goes by Amazon Web Services. It originally started in 2006, and it is a public cloud computing platform that provides scalable and cost-effective cloud computing solutions. So we have already had a discussion to what is cloud computing. And talking about AWS, it originally went public in 2006, means AWS, they were using the Amazon Web Services cloud for their internal purpose, internal uses. But in the year 2006, Amazon Web Services, they decided to go on public and make their cloud platform available for all. And AWS, it is a broad adopted cloud platform that offers several on-demand operations, like we have compute, we have database, we have storage, we have content delivery, and etc. to help organizations scale and grow. So there are a wide number of service offerings that AWS provides. We'll have a look at it in the consequent slide. So why AWS? Why any user or any particular organization or any, let's say, startup should choose AWS, should go for AWS? Let's see. So it is one of the leading providers of public cloud computing platform in the industry today. And as of today, AWS currently holds 32% of the cloud market share, whereas MS Azure, which is Microsoft Azure, it holds 23%, and Google Cloud Platform, short formed as GCP, it holds 10%. So among the top three public cloud providers, AWS already is a leading cloud provider, which is a go-to platform for public cloud computing in the industry in 2023. As we can see, it holds 32% of the cloud market share. And the AWS platform, it provides more than 200 fully featured services from data centers located all over the world, and is the world's most comprehensive cloud platform. So AWS, it provides more than 200 fully featured services. We have a lots of services in AWS. We have services for compute, we have services for database, we have for storage, we have for data analytics, we have services for containerization services like ECS, EKS, which we'll see in the consequent slide. AWS provides more than 200 services, and it has data centers located all over the world. So let's quickly go through some of the benefits of AWS. So the first would be the ease of use. We can use the AWS Management Console or the well-documented web services APIs to access AWS application hosting platform. You get a management console once you log into AWS, and from there you can just have a look at the services. Based on your requirement, you can start using the services. The flexibility. So AWS enables you to select the operating system, the programming language, web application platform, database, and other services you need. So based on your requirement, you can select from a variety of services and similarly provide the configuration of those services. Like if I'm talking about database, what amount of storage you need. If I'm talking about programming language, which language you use, like Java, C++, Python, etc. If I talk about virtual machines like EC2, what is the operating system that you want? So these kind of options a user can choose from. The third and the most important benefit of AWS is the cost effectiveness that comes with it. So you only pay for the compute power, storage, and other resources that you use, with no long-term contracts or upfront commitments. So based on your usage, based on the resources that you use, the time you use those resources, you will be billed only for that. You only pay for that. There are no long-term contracts and there are no upfront commitments. So whatever time you need any particular resource, let's say any database you need for 2 months. So in that case, you only pay for the 2 months of usage. So we have no long-term contracts and no upfront commitments inside of AWS. Fourth point, be reliable. So with AWS, you take advantage of a scalable, reliable, and secure global computing infrastructure. So AWS is deployed all over the world, and organizations from all over the world are using AWS. So we get the advantage of a reliable and secure global computing infrastructure. The fifth point, be scalable and high performance. So using AWS tools, the auto scaling and the elastic load balancing feature, your application can scale up or down based on demand. So based on the load times of your business, of your organization. So let's suppose if you have a scenario where for a period of 2 months, your business will be on high demand. So in that case, you can use the tools, auto scaling and elastic load balancing of AWS and make your business available in that high demand period to all. So the next point will be secure. So AWS, it utilizes an end-to-end approach to secure and harden our infrastructure, including physical, operational and software measures. So AWS, it is quite secure. Whenever we are talking about files, we get the options to encrypt them. We have the IAM feature inside of AWS, which stands for Identity and Access Management, through which we can configure which and how many users will be using my organization's AWS account. We can provide authentication and authorization through IAM inside AWS. So there is no compromise of security inside of AWS. The worldwide region benefits. So AWS, as we discussed, has its region deployed in almost all the areas of the world. So we have data centers located throughout the world, and this allows the end user to build and deploy applications in near proximity to the user's access, which in turn reduces latency for the end user. So since AWS has its data centers located all around the world, we can build our applications and deploy them in near proximity to the user's access to get reduced latency. And next, we have an incredible diverse array of tools and services. So we have already discussed, we have 200 plus services inside of AWS. We have a long list of tools inside of AWS. We'll see them in the consequent slide. We get unlimited server capacity, so there is no hard limit on the server that you want to use inside of AWS. And based on your requirement, you can shrink and increase your capacity as per your business requirements. So let's move on. So the service offerings of AWS. So let's see what are the services that AWS has to offer. AWS has nearly 200 plus services covering all the major areas of the industry-based services. We have services for storage, we have services for servers, for databases, for networking, for software, and etc. These are only the 5 headings that I have covered here. We do have lot many services inside of AWS. Let's see a couple of examples. So for compute, we have EC2 instances. These are nothing but just virtual machines that you can rent or hire inside of AWS. We have AWS Fargate. We have AWS ECS, which is the Elastic Container Service. We have AWS EKS, which is Elastic Kubernetes Service. And we have AWS Lambda, which is nothing but a serverless platform through which you can run your code based on some events. We'll be seeing all these services in details in the consequent lectures, but for now just keep in mind that we have services for compute inside of AWS, and these are EC2, AWS Fargate, ECS, EKS, Lambda, and etc. Now talking about storage, we do get lots and lots of storage options inside of AWS. We have Elastic Block Storage, which is the EBS. We have Elastic File Storage, which is EFS. For object storage, we get S3, which is nothing but simple storage service. And if you have large requirements of storage, you can also go for the Snow family. So we have many options for storage inside of AWS. Now let's talk about database. So we have many categories of databases available inside of AWS. Like we have Aurora, we have DocumentDB, we have DynamoDB, we have Elasticache, and we have Neptune and etc. So whatever you need, maybe if you need a SQL based database, or if you need a document based database, or also talking about graph based database, AWS has the option to provide you with all the kinds of databases based on your requirement. Talking about networking and content delivery, we have API gateway, we have AWS CloudFront, we have Route 53, which is nothing but a DNS server. We have ELB, which is Elastic Load Balancer, and we have AWS VPC, which is Virtual Private Connect. Coming to analytics, we have loads of services which help with analytics inside of AWS. We have Athena, we have Cloud Search, we have Kinesis, we have MSK, which is managed streaming platform for Apache Kafka. We have QuickSight and we have AWS Glue. So these are quite interesting services. We will be discussing about all these services and we will be covering these services in the future tutorials. Now for machine learning, we have services like Code Guru, we have services like Lex, Forecast, Comprehend, and etc. So we see that AWS has many categories of services, and inside all those categories we get a list of options to choose from based on our requirement. Now let's look at the comparison between AWS versus other public clouds. So we have already seen that AWS is currently leading the market share in public cloud computing platform as compared to other public cloud platforms. It holds the highest public share in today's industry as compared to other public clouds. And there are a wide number of organizations, startups, users who have already set up their business, scaled their business on AWS. So if we have a look into individual services category for AWS, talking about compute services for AWS, we have EC2, which stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. For Microsoft Azure, we have virtual machines, and for Google Cloud, we have Compute Engine. Talking about object storage, we have AWS S3, and in Azure, we have Azure Blob Storage, and in Google Cloud, we have Cloud Storage. Talking about networking, we have AWS VPC inside of AWS. For Azure, we have the Azure Virtual Network, and for Google Cloud, we have the Cloud Virtual Network. And if we look into the history of the public clouds, AWS came into the industry in 2006. Azure, it launched in 2010, and Google Cloud, it started in the year 2008. AWS is friendly with the open source model from the beginning. MS Azure, it is also quite competitive, but it does not hold that good relationship with the open source community. And talking about Google Cloud, it offers managed open source services that are tightly integrated into Google Cloud. Okay, so this was about the comparison between AWS and other public clouds. So I hope the points that we discussed till now were quite clear. Now let's dive into the next point where we will learn how to create the free tier AWS account. So what is the free tier AWS account? Whenever we create an AWS account, we can try some of the AWS services free of charge within certain usage limits. And when I say some of the AWS services that are provided in the free tier, trust me, these services are more than enough for you to learn about AWS, to learn AWS on a good level, on an industry requirement level. There are three types of offers in the AWS free tier programs to choose from. We can choose from the always free criteria. We can choose from the 12 months free time period, and we can also go for the short-term trials. So based on your need, you can choose from these three programs. If you want your account to be always free and limited to a certain number of services, you can go for the always free category. If you want your free tier to be of a 12-month period, you can go for the 12 months free period. And talking about the short-term trials, you can use a free tier limit each month for less than 12 months. And most short-term free trial offers start from the date you activate a particular service. So whenever we create a free tier AWS account, we get some limited capacity that we're talking about. So if I talk about EC2, we get 750 hours of EC2 usage. Talking about S3, we get 5 gigabytes of standard storage included in the free tier. Talking about RDS, which is relational database systems, we get 750 hours per month of database usage, which is quite good. Now talking about DynamoDB, we get 25 gigabytes of storage. Talking about AWS SageMaker, we get 2 months trial. And talking about AWS Lambda, we get 1 million free requests per month. So that is also quite good. Okay, so we are done with the theory part. We have seen what is AWS. We have seen why we should go for AWS. We have had a look on the service offerings inside of AWS. We did a little comparison on AWS versus other public clouds. Now let's see how we can create the free tier AWS account. So I'll quickly switch over to my browser. In the search box, you just have to type AWS free tier account. Let's click enter. So the first link that you get on your screen says sign up for a free AWS account. Just click on that, and once the page loads up, you can see on the top rightmost corner you get the option to create an AWS account or to sign in. So since we are creating our account for the first time, I'll just choose this create an AWS account. A page opens up on your screen, and here you have to provide the root user email address and the AWS account name. So what is root user? This root user will be the main user for your AWS account, and using this root user you can either create multiple IAM users, or you can also provide authentication and authorization for the IAM users. So this account, this root user, it will be acting as the leader for your AWS organization, and here you have to provide the email address of the root user. So I'll go ahead and provide the email address for the root user. Now talking about this AWS account name, this name will be displayed whenever you log in into your AWS console. Just give an account name, and once done, we will click on this verify email address. A verification email will be sent to this root user email address, which will have a code or a verification link, and we'll have to verify that code. So let's click on this verify email address. So I've got the verification code on my this email address. I'll just type in the verification code, click on verify. So the verification is completed, as we can see here. And now we have to configure the password for our root user. So make sure you type in a pretty strong password and then click on continue. Here you can choose how do you plan to use AWS, either for business, organizational uses, or for your personal uses. I'll click on personal, full name, and we have to provide a few details. I'll just go ahead and type it quickly. Once we have typed in the details, we have to click on this tick box to agree to the terms of AWS customer agreement and click on continue. Okay, so the next screen comes up, and in here we have to provide the details of a credit card or a debit card, and you can see this message from AWS that you will not be charged for any usage which is below your free tier limits, although temporarily you can be charged for a $1, but it will be recredited back to your account. So this credit card or debit card details you are providing, it is completely safe and secure. You will not be charged as long as you are in the free tier limit. So we will be creating a billing alert which will send us an alert as we are going to exceed our free tier usage. So it's completely safe to provide your credit or debit card account details. You will not be charged as long as we stay for the free tier usage, and in the consequent lectures we will make sure that we stay inside of our free tier usage. Just go ahead and provide this credit card or debit card details, and once done you have to click on verify and continue. Okay, so I have provided the details and I have logged in into my account. So this is the AWS console that you get to see when you create your AWS account. It is a quite friendly, user-friendly interface. This services button from where you can go ahead and select your services based on your requirement. We have a whole category section like analytics, application integration, blockchain, compute, containers, database, and we get a whole list of this category. We also get a search box from where we can search for the service that I want to use. Let's suppose if I want to use EC2, I'll just click on EC2, and from here I can just go ahead and click on this EC2 and get started with creating my EC2 instances. Here we do get the option to switch between regions. If you click here, you get few details about your account. Clicking on this AWS icon right here, it will take you to the home page of your AWS console. Okay, so this was it for this tutorial. We have covered the topics: what is AWS, why AWS, we have seen a few service offerings inside of AWS, quick comparison between AWS and other public clouds. We have seen how to create AWS free tier account, and in the next lecture we will be looking at how to set up IAM users, enabling MFA, which is multi-factor authentication for the IAM users. Also, we will be setting up a billing alert so that we can be notified as soon as we are going to be exceeding our free tier usage, just to be safe, just to be on the free tier usage limit only. So this was it for this tutorial. Make sure to subscribe for the consequent lectures, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.